for joining us for this evening's broadcast on Tuesday, March 31st of Your Immunity Project. My name is Sister Cheryl, and I will be assisting Dr. Alim this evening where information is power. We will open in prayer, and following prayer, Dr. Alim will present this evening's broadcast. Attention, prayer. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the day of requital. Thee do we serve, and thee do we beseech for help. Guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not those upon whom wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray. I mean,
Ameen, Ameen, Ameen. Welcome, welcome. This is the Your Immunity Project. I'm your host, Dr. Alim Muhammad, assisted by Sister Cheryl Lewis. So welcome, welcome once again. Here we are. Some call this the hour of truth because we tell it like a TI is. And of course, we're getting close to our 6th year. Yeah, 6 years. So the Your Immunity Project is coming May. And we've been on our post since that time. And of course, that was the start of the COVID-19 pandemic and all the lockdowns and the mandates and all the rest of it. And along the way, we've tried to just keep up with the trends and stay ahead of the curve because literally it's been a death curve. And so that's the whole object of the Your Immunity Project, is to keep one another informed so that we don't become one of the casualties of the depopulation agenda that is in full force. Maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe that wasn't quite obvious to you or to many people. But I think it's quite obvious to everybody that everything that you see in motion on planet Earth right now has the label of death on it. It's labeled with death. It's one form or another of death. Everything has been weaponized. Everything from medicine, from food, from the air, to the water, to vaccines, to information. Everything has been weaponized. Everything has been weaponized with the object to cause death, to cause death. And so if we expect to avoid the planned death, widespread death, the Holy Quran calls it, then we have to plan to survive. And so that's the whole purpose, the sole purpose and mission of the Your Immunity Project, is to deliver on a weekly basis the vital information that might help keep some of us alive. I don't say it's going to keep all of us alive, but some of us have to survive. And so those of us who are serious about survival, we're tuned in. And so welcome once again to the Your Immunity Project. And if you know some other people who also are as serious as you are about survival, then give them a call, give them a share, give them a notification that the Your Immunity Project is on the air. We're on the air live on the Zoom platform. You can join us there. If you join us on Zoom, then you can participate in the chat, and you can be seen and heard as per Zoom. You can join us on Facebook, and you can put your questions or comments, there on Facebook, and here on YouTube as well. You can do the same. And so probably the presentation that I'm going to give, always based on those 5 basic principles, is going to be a little shorter this evening, so as to allow more time at the end of the program for questions and comments from our viewing audience. Last week, the program went a little long. I had a long presentation, and there was hardly any time at the end. So perhaps you have a burning question, or you would like to make a comment. So please put it in the chat right now. If you put it in the chat right now, if you know what it is ahead of time, then put it in right now. And then Sister Cheryl would be able to field that. And the same on YouTube. So we always go by the 5 basic principles. Prevention is number 1. Diagnosis is number 2. Treatment is number 3. research is number 4, and education is number 5. Now we're starting on number 5. This is what these programs are. These are educational programs. And the ones that are now on YouTube for the last maybe 8 or 9 months, they're available. You know, you can go back and look at any one you want, and catch up with what's been said already. So prevention is principle number 1. Diagnosis is number 2. Treatment is number 3. Research is number 4. Education is number 5. Now, prevention is number 1 because it's the most important. When you can see something in advance before it gets here, you see, and that's what we try to do. We try to report the news before it happens. There's a trend developing somewhere. Maybe it's halfway around the world. But hey, this planet is small nowadays. And so what's halfway around the world today, hey, it'll be here tomorrow. You see, and so when you have that foresight, you see, then that makes prevention possible. You can take precautions. But oftentimes, prevention is too late or it's insufficient. And then something does go wrong. You do catch something, you know, you do have a problem. And so that's why you need a diagnosis. Now, just because you have a headache or just because you have a symptom, that's not a diagnosis, that's a symptom. A diagnosis discloses the cause, the underlying cause of what went wrong. And then once you have that proper diagnosis that discloses the underlying cause, then you can move to principle number 3, which is treatment. You see, and once you have that accurate diagnosis, that leads to accurate treatment. Misdiagnosis leads to mistreatment. And unfortunately, billions of people on planet Earth have been given a misdiagnosis having to do with COVID-19 through the misuse of the PCR test that was never used, never developed, I should say, to diagnose clinical illness. It's a research tool, and it can be manipulated all kinds of ways. And it has been manipulated. So billions of people on planet Earth, maybe even you, were given a faulty diagnosis, a misdiagnosis. And all too often that led to mistreatment, usually in the form of an unwanted, unneeded vaccine, so-called, which was really gene therapy. So it was a lie from the beginning. A misdiagnosis is a lie. And then to call gene therapy a vaccine, that's another lie. And of course, all of the propaganda machinery was working nonstop, 24/7, through the mainstream media, Trump on the TV with all of the experts, Anthony Fauci. So literally, the global population was herded like cattle into receiving something that has resulted in mass casualties, mass deaths, because the motive behind the whole thing is what? Depopulation. So how do you depopulate the planet? You know, I mean, think about it. Bullets are too expensive. But a shot, you know, cost effective. You see, so you have to be cost conscious if you want to depopulate the world. You know, you can't be exorbitant. You can't go over budget. You know, I'm sure there's a budget of how much they are willing to spend to kill everybody, except themselves. And so to conclude with our 5 principles, research number 4, because why? There's always unanswered questions. There's always something left out. There's always something that's unknown. And these days you have to do your own research, and we do our own research. We've done 2 clinical trials in the past. And the reason for that is because you can't trust NIH. You can't trust the FDA. You can't trust government. You can't trust your doctor. For the most part, we found out all of them got paid off. You know, all of them that were in on the COVID thing, your pediatrician, your general practitioner, at the local clinic, at the urgent care center, at the big hospital center, wherever you are, hey, they were all getting paid. And that's how the misdiagnosis got circulated among billions of people, because if they made the COVID-19 diagnosis, they got paid more money than they would if they didn't make the diagnosis. So even a gunshot wound was listed as COVID-19. so they could get paid. So the hospital got paid, the clinic got paid, the doctors got paid, the researchers got paid, the politicians got paid. And think about it now, didn't you get paid? Come on now, you got paid. You got what they call it, a stimulus check. And that was to stimulate you to roll up your sleeve so that you would get the shot. And unfortunately, under Joe Biden's term, even though the vaccine was developed by Donald Trump at warp speed, but under Joe Biden's term, 227 million Americans, they got the shot. And how many more after that? And how many boosters? Well, we're seeing the results of what they did by the mounting statistics of illness and death. So, Sister Cheryl, let's go to our images and we'll go through those and we'll see some of what we're talking about as is happening right now. Now, in the Your Immunity Project, we try to stay about 19 months ahead. That's been our average. We usually talk about things 19 months before they hit the mainstream news, before everybody else hears about it. We're talking about it on the Your Immunity Project. And then we do the same thing on Wednesdays with the 19th element. We try to predict the future with geopolitical events, war and peace issues, strategic issues. And you see the world is getting dangerous. And so our logo, as it's being projected there, becomes more and more relevant. If you don't have a plan for survival, you probably won't. And plan means that it has to be something written down on paper. You're noticing all of the grid failures all over the world, blackouts taking place. It's even predicted in the Quran. There's going to be a time of darkness. So that means the lights are going to go out. So that means your plan has to be written down on paper, in ink, and not just on an electronic device, because otherwise it's going to be lost. It has to be updated frequently, because as things change, then your plan has to change. It has to be relevant, and contemporary. And so plan is both a verb and a noun. Plan means that you have to do something every day in the direction of your survival. For example, one of the headlines we're going to see tonight is the toxic chemical cloud that is enveloping the western part of the United States. In Eugene, Oregon, and other parts of the Southwest and Arizona, toxic chemical cloud is covering huge areas of the country, and the government is issuing emergency alerts telling people to keep your windows closed because there's a toxic plume in the air. Well, you see, if it's on the West Coast today, given the fact that the winds blow from west to east, then what's on the West Coast today is going to be here by tomorrow. That's what I'm saying. I mean, what's happening on the West Coast today is going to be here by tomorrow. So if they have a toxic plume of chemicals, whatever the source of that is, I mean, they have explosions in Tehran. Now they're having explosions in America. They're having explosions in Tel Aviv. Now they're having explosions. They had a chemical explosion in Tel Aviv or Dimona. And they had didn't they have a chemical cloud in the sky over Tehran? A toxic cloud? Didn't we report that last week? Now we got a toxic cloud over America? Well, anyhow, that should be a part of your survival plan. That's my point. Wherever it came from, whoever did it. And you may never know the truth, especially if you're dead. So if it's a toxic cloud on the way and you have found out about it on Tuesday night on the Your Immunity Project, now what are you going to do about it? Now, if you're already in Eugene, Oregon, it's a little bit late. And I actually have this posted on my Telegram. And you can see the cities in Arizona and parts of California and I believe Utah that are covered by this toxic cloud of deadly chemicals. And they don't really specify what it is. So now if you're on the broadcast and you live somewhere where this toxic cloud is, send me a picture. Send me a picture and I will do a toxic spectral analysis on it to see what's in these toxic clouds. What chemicals are there? How dangerous is it really? You see? And maybe that'll give us a clue as to where it came from. So we'll see the headline a little bit later on. So things change day by day, and you can't be lazy about it. You have to be alert. You have to be vigilant. In the military, they talk about situational awareness. So you have to look above your head, below your feet, to your left, to your right, in front of you, behind you, in all aspects. You have to have awareness because the threat could be coming from any direction. The threat could be in your food. The threat could be in the water. The threat could be in the air. The threat could be in your neighbor. Your threat could be on your television, in your cell phone. So you have to be aware of all of these things and the potential threat to your and my survival. Next image, please. So plan on survival, or you probably won't. So now I'm going to go through a lot of articles, well, not so many, but the articles that I am going to go through are largely like this. If you or someone you love had COVID-19 or received a COVID-19 vaccine and has since experienced unexplained headaches, memory problems, brain fog, or cognitive decline, this may be the most important thing you read today. And so this is the heading of an article. And it goes through the long list of what they call long COVID symptoms. And so, when Joe Biden convinced 227 million or coerced 227 million Americans to get this shot, this is what people are faced with now. This is what the result of what Joe Biden and Donald Trump teamed up. They were a team. Donald Trump introduced the warp speed vaccine, turned it over to Joe Biden. He promoted it. And then, unfortunately, 227 million people took it. And so now, these few or 4 years later, these are the problems that people are faced with: memory loss, brain fog, cognitive decline. In other words, this was an attack against the brains of people. When you attack the brain, you attack behavior. If you can change the structure of the brain or the functioning of the brain, then you change behavior. Well, it doesn't seem like they enhanced anybody's brain function. Seems like they put everybody into a decline. So it means that what you're talking about here, euphemistically referred to as brain fog and cognitive decline, you're talking about dementia. You're talking about premature senile dementia. You're talking about premeditated senile dementia, where you have actually turned the entire population, or at least those who received the vaccine, you have turned them into mental morons. Whatever their IQ was before they got the shot, they may have been a genius, IQ of above 140. Well, what's the IQ now walking around in a brain fog? Yeah, maybe 70, 60. They can't even remember their name. They can't even read. They can't even think. They probably couldn't even do an IQ test. So this is what has been done to hundreds of millions of your fellow Americans and really people around the world. So we're going to go through a lot of articles, and it's just going to really kind of be listing out all of the terrible, terrible things that people are suffering from as a result of what took place. Next image. So if you or someone you know, doctors warn that COVID-19 causes a wide array of hidden brain damage. You see, it seems that although early on we heard about myocarditis, it seemed like it was all about the heart. The spike protein was causing inflammation in the heart, and people had myocarditis. That's all you were hearing about. But now it seems a little bit later on, even though the myocarditis has not gone away, none of the other things have gone away. The strokes haven't gone away. The heart attacks haven't gone away. The renal failure hasn't gone away. The hepatic failure hasn't gone away. Turbo cancers haven't gone away. But it's just that as time goes on, the cognitive decline, the brain issues seem to be becoming more and more prominent. I guess the people that didn't die already from turbo cancer, the people that didn't die already from myocarditis. I guess these are the ones that are left, and now they're seeing severe cognitive decline. Maybe the spike protein worked on the brain a little bit slower than it worked on the heart. And those that were susceptible in the heart, they're already gone. Now those who are susceptible in the brain, hey, I guess it's their turn. Next image, please. So evidence is raising alarm over what they call long COVID. Why COVID-19 attacks the brain. Scientists believe multiple mechanisms are at play. Inflammation, the body's immune response, may damage brain tissue. We showed you some slides, I believe, last week or 2 weeks ago, microglia in the brain, how they get excited, overstimulated, and they contribute to the damage done to brain tissue. Blood clotting. COVID-19 increases the risk of dangerous clots. That explains all the strokes that are taking place. And a lot of people say, well, I didn't get the vaccine. Yeah, but you were around vaccinated people and they shed on you. They shed on you through skin contact, through breath, through exchange of body fluids. How careful were you in avoiding contact with vaccinated people? So most of the people that I test now with the autonomic response testing that I do remotely, I would say about half of the people, they tell me, I never got the shot, doc. I never got the shot. Why am I testing positive for COVID-19? Why am I testing positive for the spike protein? Because you were not careful about avoiding vaccinated people and they shed on you. You were in a classroom with them. You were in church with them. You were singing in the choir with them. You were playing basketball with them. You were in the bus with them. You were on the plane with them. And if you understand that 2 out of 3 people are vaccinated in America, hey, 100 people on the bus, hey, 60 of them breathing out the spike protein. And there you are in the middle of it with your unvaccinated self. Except now you get out the bus, now you're vaccinated. You got vaccinated on that bus ride with all those vaccinated people. You see? Blood-brain barrier damage. See, there's a barrier between the rest of the body and the brain. The brain is a special precinct. It's like the precincts of heaven. You can't just get in there. There's a barrier. It's called the blood-brain barrier. So some of the dangerous chemicals that might be floating around in the lower body, it can't get to the brain. And if it does, hey, it could be big trouble. And so that's the big trouble that people are experiencing because the blood-brain barrier gets broken down. And then dangerous toxic chemicals, even bacteria and other infectious agents now have access directly to the brain. Next image, please. And as you know, that couldn't be good. That can't be good. So COVID-19 may silently trigger serious and delayed brain disorders even after recovery. See how tricky that language is? COVID-19 may silently trigger serious and delayed brain disorders even after recovery. Well, I guess there wasn't a recovery then. Recovery. There was never a recovery. Study reveals startling neurological cases. Next image, please. So again, I'm going to publish all of this if you want to read all of the details for yourself. But these are just some of them. Subtle vision loss, the inflammation of the optic nerve. And all of a sudden, you know, there's a loss of vision, blurry vision, or even complete blindness. You see, 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, after COVID or the COVID shot. Notice how a lot of these research papers, they don't seem to make a distinction about whether you got the shot or whether you actually had COVID. I thought COVID was supposed to be an infection. And I thought the shot was supposed to be a vaccine, you know, notwithstanding that it's gene therapy. But apparently there's no difference between whether you got the shot or whether you got the so-called infection. You seem to come down with the same exact set of symptoms. Next image, please. So vision loss, loss of smell, loss of taste. These are special senses that are mediated by the cranial nerves. You have 12 cranial nerves. And so those are the special senses mediated by those cranial nerves, which are direct connections into the brain. So evidently, if COVID-19 or the vaccine or spike protein, can affect the optic nerve, then you have blurry vision. If it affects the first cranial nerve, then you can't smell anymore. If it affects the hypoglossal nerve, now you can't taste anymore, so on and so forth. The symptoms of, this is a new strain of COVID that they are detecting. They call it BA 3.2. The symptoms are similar to those caused by other variants. According to the CDC, common symptoms of this new strain of COVID, they call it COVID-19 in 2026, the same old symptoms: cough, fever, chills, sore throat, congestion, shortness of breath, loss of smell or taste, fatigue, headache, gastrointestinal symptoms like diarrhea. Okay, that sounds pretty familiar. So in other words, they've come out with a new model of COVID-19, just like the car companies every year. Don't they come out with new models? Doesn't Apple come out with new models of the iPhones every year? Yeah, because the sales from the old ones wore out. So now they got to generate some new sales. Well, now they have to have a new virus every year because people's immune systems have already adapted to the old strains. So now you have to have a slightly different model. You can still tell it's a Chevrolet. You can still tell it's a Ford, I guess. All of them look pretty much the same nowadays, don't they? But anyhow, this is just, remember, we're dealing with a genetically engineered chimeric bioweapon. We showed you Dr. Ralph Barrick in the University of North Carolina last week that he's the #1 scientist who probably developed the whole thing. Well, he's probably still tinkering with it. Or one of his students, one of his disciples. They're tinkering with his original model. Say, let's put some fins on it. Let's, like they used to do with the old car model. We'll put some fins on the back of it, make it look like a spaceship. And so that's all they're doing. They're just tweaking the original COVID-19 that made everybody sick. And just in case your immune system adjusted to it, now it's just like a new influenza virus. Every year, the influenza virus mutates naturally into a slightly different virus. That's why your immune system sometimes can't keep up with it. So they're just doing that artificially mutating the virus so that more people will get sick and more people will have these symptoms and more people will develop all of the other symptoms that we've been talking about, like the brain fog, cognitive decline, memory loss, and all the rest of it. Next image, please. So get set. This is being primed. We warned you about this about 2 or 3 weeks ago, that they were setting the stage for the next pandemic. Okay, well, now they've identified the new variant that's been released into the community. Okay, so again, these are just lingering symptoms, even after mild infection. And these are really case studies. Sudden and severe brain events. Well, what's a sudden and severe brain event? Oh, a stroke. How about that? Next image, please. So a lot of the people that we know over the last 3, 4, 5 years that have died in our community, that this is what they died from. I mean, if you just go, if you know some of those people and the symptoms that they had in the course that they had in the hospital and out of the hospital, and you just match it to the symptoms that they call long COVID, that's what they had. That's what they died from. You see, so I mean, what I'm trying to say is, don't act like these are some other people, some other place. No, a whole lot of the people that we have just pronounced janazas over. This is what they died from. And some of the people that are still among us, this is what they're sick from. That's what's wrong with them. You're wondering why some people are acting the way they do, like they're in a brain fog. They are in a brain fog. Don't you understand? They are in a brain fog. They are in cognitive decline. That's why some people act so silly. See, we're expecting people to act in a normal way. These are not normal times. And so it's not just the people who got the shot, but it's in people who were careless enough to be around people who got the shot. And so now 3 or 4 years have gone past, enough inflammation and damage to brain tissue has taken place. They are having cognitive decline. They're in a brain fog. See, I understand that when I'm calling for a dialogue. These are not the people that can respond to a call for dialogue, and you're in a brain fog. How are you going to dialogue in a brain fog, in a cognitive decline? You see, so the call for dialogue cannot be answered by everybody. It cannot be answered by everybody. Not these people. They have suffered too much brain damage. And so we have to understand that. And so these are just the mechanisms that cause it, autoimmune attacks. You know, it's almost like having AIDS in the brain. Next image, please. It's not almost like AIDS in the brain. It is AIDS in the brain. So now this is, if you look at this map, you can see where you live. And the light gray are the areas that have not really been affected yet by this new variant of COVID. But the other areas you can see by the different colors how severe it is. And it's mostly in the, the Northeast, Florida, Texas, and California, the really big states and the populous areas of the country. The least populous areas seem to be least affected. And the Mid-South seems to be doing pretty good. Next image, please. But it's spreading. So now here's something that we've touched on in the past. The chickenpox vaccine increases your risk of shingles by 2 times. Now what's misleading in this headline is they don't let you know that shingles and chickenpox are one and the same thing. See, when you get chickenpox in childhood, they call it chickenpox. When you get chickenpox in adulthood, they call it shingles. But it's the same virus that's causing it. They just changed the name to confuse you. So basically, the chickenpox vaccine increases your risk of chickenpox, called shingles, by 2x. And guess what? When you get shingles, then what are they going to recommend? They're going to recommend that you get the shingles vaccine. So when you get the shingles vaccine, guess what? That increases your chances of getting shingles 11 times. You can't make this stuff up. And if you read the article, what you see is how the pharmaceutical companies, they actually set all of this up. They knew all of this in advance. They knew all of this in advance. They knew that you were, if you took their chickenpox vaccine as a child, and every pediatrician, forced it on you whether you wanted it or not. And so then you got the chickenpox vaccine in childhood, and then they know that that's just passive immunity. And in adulthood, at some point, it's going to wear off, and then you're going to get shingles. And then when you get shingles, then they're going to recommend another vaccine. And what does the vaccine do? It gives you more shingles. That's good for profits, I guess. Next image, please. Yeah, that's how they do you. That's how they do you. That's how they're doing you. Now, here's the first human H9N2 avian flu case detected in Europe. Okay, so now this is how COVID started. Remember, the first cases weren't in America. The first cases, they said, were in Wuhan, China. Then the second group of cases were in Iran. And then the third group of cases were in Spain. And then all over Europe. And then the next thing you know, in New York City. And then from there, all over the country. And so now, even though this is just one case in Europe of this avian flu, keep your eye on it, because people are fleeing Europe. They're coming to America because it's getting hot in Europe. Next image, please. They don't know it's going to get hot in America too. Now, we pointed out, I think last week and the week before, that this Lyme disease epidemic that's been raging for 20, 25 years is really a biological weapon. It was the ticks leaked from the laboratories. They escaped from the laboratories and spread all over the northeastern part of America and giving people Lyme disease. Now they're coming up with a, I guess it's a vaccine for ticks. And they're saying that what it's going to do, see, when a tick bites you, it hangs on. And they say there's something in the saliva of the tick that does not allow the blood to clot. So then the tick can keep sucking blood and the blood won't clot on it. And so they're going to try to do something to trick the saliva so the blood will clot and then the tick will fall off. So anyhow, I guess they developed a weapon and they released it. So they're trying to come up with something to control it. Next image, please. I guess that's what they're doing. Sometimes I just think these people are crazy. That's really what I think it is. I think they're just crazy. So WHO, World Health Organization, moves to launch global vaccine passport system with firm link to Pfizer and Bill Gates. Now, of course, Bill Gates is the #1 funder of the World Health Organization. So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, go look it up. They're the #1 donors to support the WHO. And so they have a lot to say about WHO policy. And so back in the early days of COVID, remember, they were saying that you had to have a COVID-19 vaccine passport if you wanted to get on a plane. And in fact, that's one of the ways that we use the clinical trial, because they were saying that if you didn't have a certificate showing that you were vaccinated, then you couldn't get on this plane. And so we showed people, no, we have a clinical trial going on. I don't have to take the vaccine if I'm enrolled in the clinical trial. Let me on the plane. I got to go. You see? So now they're coming back with it. They're coming back with it in the second Trump term after Trump has made a deal with the big Silicon Valley oligarchs like Peter Thiel of Palantir, and they're setting up this digital surveillance system. See, this is tied in with the digital ID. This is tied in with Palantir's surveillance of the population. This has to do with the digital currency. This has to do with the Internet of Things. And now they're saying that if you want to go somewhere in the world, you're going to have to prove your vaccine status. And if you have not been compliant with World Health Organization policies, which is to say what Pfizer and Bill Gates want you to do, I always point out Pfizer is the #1 criminal corporation in the history of the world. So now here you have these two top criminals in control of the World Health Organization telling you what you can do and what you can't do. So are you going to let this happen or not? And along with this, you got to stop that digital ID. Next image, please. That's total surveillance and total control. So now this is just an image of what's that case in Europe of avian flu. Next image, please. So don't let that be you. So now this is something that really surprised me. And a lot of people are concerned because they're finding out that they cannot afford health insurance. Not that it's worth anything, but whether it's worth anything or not, you still have to be able to afford it. And so this article unravels what they're calling the Great American Health Insurance Swindle. I'm not so sure it's a swindle, because it looked like this guy, he came out on top. And the reason he came out on top was because he didn't have any health insurance, and he ended up in the emergency room. Next image, please. So he ended up, he was 28 years old, but he ended up in the emergency room, had to spend 2 nights in the emergency room, and he had no insurance. Does that sound familiar? So then he gets a bill. They charged him $24,000, 2 nights in the emergency room. $8,000 for a CT scan. Get out of here. I remember it was $1,200. Laboratory, $6,000. What, for a CBC? IV therapy, $1,000, and $4,000 in total. And And he says, well, while the $24,000 seems like a lot of money, let me show you something. This is what I'm actually paying, $2,478. Well, how did he pull that off? Next image, please. Because when you don't have insurance, listen carefully now. When you don't have insurance, these hospitals give you a discount. They discounted $22,000 off of this bill. What's that, like a 90% discount? But if I had insurance, I wouldn't have been given that discount. So it would have been $24,000 bill to my insurance. And then my insurance would have said, hey, you have a $5,000 deductible. You need to pay $5,000 for this last emergency room visit. Then you tack on the $900 a month that I'd be paying for that insurance. I'd be paying $20,000 this year for health care. But because he doesn't have health insurance and he got a 99%, I'm guessing, 99% discount, then he came out ahead. He only paid $2,400. So that's some good information to know. If you were sweating the fact that you don't have health insurance, there's always a way out. And then the other thing that he could do even after this, see, even though he has to pay a little bit there, he could set up a payment plan for himself. I'll pay you $50 a month. I'll pay you $50 a month. I'm not refusing to pay. I'll just pay you $50 a month. That's all I want that fit in my budget. I pay you $50 a month. You see, and it might take you 50 years to pay it, but you're paying it off. Next image, please. So you got to learn how to play the game. So now your healthcare data is for sale. Here's how Big Pharma is using it. Now, I have some personal experience with this. Big Pharma buys consumer healthcare data and uses it to target doctors who don't prescribe their drugs. See what I mean? I have personal experience with this. I have been targeted because I'm a doctor that did not prescribe their drugs, and they didn't like it. So they came after me. Yeah, they came after me more than once. Pharmaceutical companies have been doing this for decades. I know they've been doing it for decades. They've been doing it to me. Yet few people know it happens. Many doctors don't fully understand how it's done. I know how it's done. Next image, please. Yeah, it's amazing. See, so now if they have this digital passport, vaccine passport, and we've just found out that the pharmaceutical companies and everybody, they sell health data, insurance companies sell health data. Well, guess who has all that health data? WHO and partners. Guess who they might be? Bill Gates and Pfizer. Launch a new initiative to expand use of digital health wallets. Well, that's a little bit different than the vaccine passport. Yeah, you're going to have a digital passport, vaccine passport in order to travel, but you're also going to have all of your health data in some kind of digital wallet. They call it a wallet. Why do they call it a wallet? I guess because they're going to make a whole lot of money off of it, I guess. You're probably not going to make any money off of it, but all of your data will go into this digital system. That's the real threat. That's the real danger. And they're going to sell it and make all kinds of money. And they're going to use that data to specifically target you, just like they target doctors like me. They wanted to know, how come you're not writing any prescriptions? That's what they wanted to know. Have me down in front of the medical board. How come you're not fulfilling your quota of prescription drugs like you're supposed to? Don't you know that's what your license is for? You're supposed to be selling drugs to the community. That's what a doctor's license is for. What's wrong with you? Yeah, I'm telling you a true story. I had to explain myself. Next image, please. See, so they're going to create this huge database, and it's going to be merged with all other databases, facial recognition software. For example, some of you that are on Facebook right now, why do they call it Facebook? Did you ever wonder why they call it Facebook? That's because they are compiling a database of your face, of facial recognition. So that wherever you go, you will be recognized because your face is all over Facebook. That's what it's for. That's why the CIA gave Mark Zuckerberg one of the highest awards that they give out, because Mark Zuckerberg figured out how to make people give up their own data, how to spy on their own self, and put all their information, all their personal information, everything they're thinking about on Facebook. And all the CIA has to do is just harvest all that information, feed it into artificial intelligence, and then create an avatar that comes back looking just like you, talking like you. And you think that's you. So as Americans go broke, the U.S. empire goes full on bread and circus. In other words, you would think that they would be putting on the brakes with this economic crunch and this war going on. No, they're going full throttle in the other direction. So in other words, economic collapse is on the horizon. See, this is like, you remember what they call the Roaring 20s? See, that is just like this. See, the Roaring 20s, everything, everything going crazy. Everybody's, getting high, hysterical. Things couldn't be better. Well, that was just a prelude before the crash of 1929. Okay, so we're in the same period right now, you see, before the next great crash, the next great global depression, which according to one AI prediction, it said it's going to make, we showed that last week, so they're going to make the first depression in the 1930s look like a cakewalk. So Americans are going broke, can't pay for groceries, can't pay the rent, but they're living the high life. They're maxing out on their credit cards, and the companies are doing the same thing. The government agencies are doing the same thing. The rent, the debt is going through the ceiling. I remember when Trump took office, the national debt was $37 trillion. Now they just went past 40 trillion. It's past $40 trillion. And he's desperate. I told you at the start of the year, he had to come up with $9 trillion just like that. And he failed to do it. And that's why he's trying to steal everybody's oil. Got to pay the bills, just like you. Next image, please. He got bills to pay. So toxins raining from the sky. So those are chemtrails. And so, we've been reporting on this for years, and some other people have been too. But now it's reaching the mainstream, where people are beginning to notice that there's something above our head that doesn't quite look natural. Yeah, that's DARPA. That's the Pentagon. That's Israel. Those planes are being flown by the same pilots that are dropping bombs on Gaza and Lebanon. They're over here depositing chemtrails over your head, over my house, over your house. And your government is doing it to you. And people are, maybe it's because of that cognitive decline. Maybe they're in a brain fog so deep, they can't even see chemtrails. They don't even ask any questions. Why do they keep killing us? Is the reason why all these people getting sick is because they're putting death in the air? Hey, by the way, that's the name of a book written by my friend Leonard Horowitz, Death in the Air. He came out with that book about 12 years ago. People thought he was crazy. He said the government in the near future is going to be killing us through the air by poisoning the air. Well, here it is. Don't you see it? So toxins raining from the sky, toxic military geoengineering of the weather. And we've done whole presentations in the past. This is done by Palantir. This is done by the Pentagon. This is done by DARPA. This is done by Israel. Just as they're committing genocide overseas, they're committing genocide right here. Next image, please. The same people who support genocide there, they're committing genocide here. You've been distracted by the genocide they're committing there, so you don't notice the genocide that's happening here. Health warning issued for thousands as life-threatening toxins flood multiple U.S. states. Close windows now. What are the toxins? They're telling you it's life-threatening toxins, but they don't even tell you what they are. What are they? Where did they come from? How did this happen all of a sudden? So if you live in any of those states, in Oregon, I know, and Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and I think California, if you live in any of these areas where you have these alerts, please send me a picture of the sky. Send me a photograph of the atmosphere. And then I will do a spectral analysis on it and try to determine what chemicals or heavy metals or radioactive elements might be in that toxic cloud. But do as they say, close your windows and stay indoors. And I'm going to repost a project that I highlighted more than a year ago. And it was how to build an indoor air purifier. So that's what these people need. They need to build an indoor air purifier. You can't purify the air outside. But if you just close the windows and the doors, you're actually trapping toxins inside your house. And you might be tracking them in on your shoes. So over time, toxins could build up in your house higher than the ones on the outside. So you actually have to have a way to purify the air on the inside of your house. And you can do that. All you need is a box fan, and then you install, you use ordinary air filters that you use in your furnace, and you just create like a box. And the fan sucks the air in through the sides of the box that are made from these air filters, and the fan blows the air up. And of course, it can purify an entire house over a short period of time. So I'm going to repost that, and if I remember, I'll bring it because I have it in my kitchen. Because when I use it, I keep it in the kitchen, and I'll show you what it looks like. Very easy to build, very inexpensive. You're just going to need 4 air filters and a box fan and a cardboard box. That's all you need. And then you can purify the air inside your house when the weather outside is like this. Next image, please. Now, I don't think this is from chemtrails. I think this was something else. I even heard somebody say there was a chemical explosion somewhere, but I don't have any real information. Now, look what they're doing in Cuba. You see, they need our help down there. Now, Russia just broke the blockade because Trump had cut them off from everything, all food, water, fuel, everything, just a starvation campaign. He's doing to Cuba what Israel is doing in Gaza. They're just starving those people, depriving them of all of the necessities of life, trying to just destroy them, just the most wicked thing that you could ever think to do. And so Vladimir Putin said to Cuba, we are not going to let you fall. We are not going to let you fall. And they just sent a tanker, I think it had 740,000 barrels of fuel oil on board so they can get the lights back on in Cuba, and get things going back to normal in Cuba. And I hope they brought more than just some oil. I hope they brought something else, because Trump is crazy enough to try some kind of an invasion. Next image, please. That's just 90 miles away. So speaking of Trump, see, who is he talking to? He's saying he's holding negotiations with the Iranians. And the Iranians say, we haven't talked to that man in months. We don't want to talk to him. And none of his people. What's he talking about? We don't talk to people like that. Once we find out a man is a liar, why waste time talking to a man that's a known liar? I mean, that's my policy too. That's my personal policy. Once I find out a person is a liar, I don't waste no time with that person, because it's a waste of time. I mean, you can be nice to them, but I'm just saying you don't take them seriously after they prove themselves to be a liar. So here's Trump negotiated twice with Iran, then stabbed them in the back. While in the midst of negotiations, here the Iranians innocently thinking that they're negotiating in good faith with a good faith partner. And in the midst of the negotiations, Trump and Israel sneak attack them, sucker punch them, and then even murdered the people who were trying to negotiate. How wicked can you get? So now he's hearing voices in with an Iranian accent saying that we want to make a deal. No, they don't. The only deal they're going to make is run you out of the Middle East and humiliate you. And you already are humiliated. Now the whole world knows you're nothing but a liar, nothing but a thief, nothing but a crook, nothing but an international criminal, nothing but a mass murderer. Next image, please. So he needs to be in a straitjacket. So now a lot of people, they quote The Art of War, Sun Tzu. What about Don Tzu? If you don't know what you're doing, neither does your enemy. So see, that's his greatest tactic, is confusion. He's so confused, he don't know what he's doing. So certainly his enemies can't figure him out either. Next image, please. And they seriously try to figure out this lunatic. Like you can figure that out. No, he's just a lunatic. Now here's something that is very important to keep in mind, because a lot of people more and more are depending on artificial intelligence. I even saw a Muslim imam. It was in Mosque Maryam, in fact. He had artificial intelligence tell him the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I think that's a mistake, to rely on artificial intelligence to give you the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I bet artificial intelligence does know the lessons and the supreme wisdom and message to the black man. I bet they read every page of it. I bet artificial intelligence did. I bet they know. I know it. I bet they know it up and down. I bet they do. Your artificial intelligence assistant, AI assistant. They keep offering you AI assistants. We'll help you. We'll help you. We'll help you with your Bible studies. We'll help you with your Quranic studies. So when somebody looked into it, they found that artificial intelligence misquotes the Bible 60% of the time. In other words, 6 out of 10 times, when you're relying on artificial intelligence to quote the Bible, 60% of the time it misquotes it. How about the Quran? How well do you think artificial intelligence is going to do with the Quran? You see, so this could lead many people astray. See, because they're so lazy, they don't run or read the book for themselves. They don't want to pick up a real book. Oh, no, I just hit it up on my computer. I'll just see what artificial intelligence has to say. And you notice that when you do any search now on any subject, they send you directly to artificial intelligence first, as your first advisor. And you actually have to turn artificial intelligence down to do your own search in your own way. So this is just a warning to people. Artificial intelligence is not your friend. And it certainly is not a spiritual guide that you can rely on to tell you the truth. It will not tell you the truth about God. You can even see that even in spell check. Anytime you're trying to put in certain types of words, certain types of spiritual words, certain types of words that relate to God, into righteousness, and to all of the things that are good, hey, spell check can't seem to work. But it'll always take you to something dirty and filthy and nasty, something secular, something that don't have nothing to do with nothing. So again, artificial intelligence, digital intelligence, as I say, digital sounds like Dajjal, and Dajjal is the Antichrist. So what else would the Antichrist do except misquote the Bible, misquote the Quran, misquote the truth? If they misquote the Bible, you think they're telling you the truth about everything else? You think they're telling you the truth about biology? You think they're telling you the truth about astronomy or geology or history? No, they're not telling you the truth about anything. Next image, please. Artificial intelligence. What's intelligent about that? So now this was the theme Sunday on prayer and fasting. The question of the hour, will Minister Farrakhan lift the fatwa, I guess you can't see it there on the screen, but will Mr. Farrakhan lift the fatwa against the 9 ministries? And of course, fatwa is, that's an Arabic word, and fatwa means a religious ruling or religious edict from a religious authority. It's a non-binding kind of a ruling or decision. It's not binding like something that you would find in the Quran. It doesn't rank like that, or even with the Hadith. But it is the opinion of a religious authority over a religious community, and it carries the authority of that office. And so in 2009, as the chairman of the Commission for the Restructuring and Reorganization of the Nation of Islam, I, along with many, many other people, we attempted to institute the 9 ministries as the way forward for the Nation of Islam. And of course, that was not allowed. Now, the minister did not use the word fatwa. Some people, oh, he didn't use that word. Well, I know he didn't use that word. He used the word death warrant. So death warrant is a legal edict, it's a legal ruling, it's the legal decision issued by an authority. So, and I use the word fatwa deliberately because it lines up with what's taking place in the world with the Islamic Republic of Iran. We have a similar problem. We're being attacked by the same people for the same reason, you see? And so Iran cannot defend itself fully, in the opinion of some, because it does not possess nuclear weapons, because there's a fatwa against it. The previous Ayatollah, may Allah be pleased with his soul, issued a fatwa preventing the Iranians from developing nuclear weapons. And so they have no nuclear deterrent, and that's why they're being attacked. Because it was assumed by America and Israel, oh, they don't have nuclear weapons. They can't defend themselves because we do. 2 nuclear powers attacking a non-nuclear power. And they can't develop nuclear weapons because there's a fatwa against it. So now there's a new Ayatollah, and everybody is on the edge of their seats. Will he change the fatwa? Because it's non-binding. It can be changed. It can be changed. It's not written in granite. It was just the expert opinion of a religious scholar at a particular time in history. And at that time, it seemed to that religious scholar that this was the right decision to be made. But it's not binding, and it can be changed. And so that's where we are. Let's look at the next image, please. See, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that our unity is more powerful than nuclear bombs. See, so it's the same thing with Iran. They need the nuclear option. Somebody needs to change the fatwa. We need the nuclear option, which is our unity. But in order for them to achieve their nuclear option, somebody has to change the fatwa. And in order for us to exercise our nuclear option, we have to change the fatwa. The fatwa has to be lifted so we can build the 9 ministries. See, the 9 ministries is our unity. That's the only way that you actually can unite the people. You actually have to create for them the ministries in every area of activity to satisfy all of the needs of all of the people. That's why you need all 9 ministries. You cannot actually have a unified people unless you are supplying the needs of those people in all of those areas of life. Otherwise, they have to split off from you. If you can't offer them education, they have to split off from you to go get education somewhere else. So I wish we had the Ministry of Education so my grandsons wouldn't be in a Catholic school. They have to split off and go to a Catholic school because we don't have one here to put them in here. And maybe you have a child or grandchildren and they're off somewhere else in somebody else's education system. Because we don't have a Ministry of Education that provides education for every level of education that is needed among our people, from the highest to the lowest. You say, if you get sick, where are you going to go? You got to break off from your own people. We're just like those some of those countries in Africa and other parts of the world. The president of the country gets sick. He got to go to France to get care. Why can't he get care in his own country? Because they don't have an adequate ministry of health. Same thing here. Our leadership, our people get sick. We got to break off and go to the enemy's camp. Please take care of me, even though I know you're my enemy, and you know I'm your enemy. But please take care of me and don't kill me. You see, so again, the only way that we can bring our people together and keep them together is when we are able to fulfill all of their needs in one place at one time. You see, and the only way to do that is to build these 9 ministries. And it's not just talking to ministries, it's actually doing the constructive work. So the fatwa has to be lifted because right now there's a lot of controversy. A lot of people, they would love to do this, but they feel like, they have excuses. They have reasons why. And so the air needs to be cleared. The minister needs to clear the air and say, I'm not against this. No, go on and do it. Y'all go on and do that. You better do it. And then, of course, the deeper spiritual reason is that we know that the condition of the Nation of Islam is not what it's supposed to be. And the condition of the nation has earned Minister Farrakhan, according to what he told me, the displeasure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we need to change that. And the only way we can change the displeasure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad into pleasure is to change the condition of the nation. And that's not just up to Minister Farrakhan, that's up to all of us. It's our nation too. We all suffer from the same condition. So if you're like me, you think the condition can get better. And if it can get better, then we should make it better. And so that's what this is all about. So I'm calling for the nuclear option, which is our unity. And I'm saying, and again, this is just a preliminary proposal. I think we should convene a Congress, maybe by July, a national conference of national deliberative dialogue. And by that time, we can compile a complete agenda of the vital issues that confront us as a nation and a people. And then engage in serious, formal, deliberative dialogue in a Congress that includes all elements of our nation, Big Ten event, excluding nobody. Let everybody come in and have something to say and contribute to finding solutions that plague us, that will help us to move ahead in the direction of creating the 9 ministries so that we can satisfy the needs of our people, so that we can literally put ourselves in heaven while we live. So that's just a proposal. That's coming from me. That's what I think we should do. Now, other people may have other ideas about what they think should do, and we should talk about all of that and hear all ideas, and then come up with a consensus on what we think is best, and then move ahead in a unified manner and make some progress. So was that the last image? Maybe there's one more. Yeah, that's me some years ago when I had a little bit more hair than I do now. But these lectures, I think I did 4 lectures or 5, and Brother Michael, he did maybe 3 or 4. My lectures, this was at Mas Mariam in 2007. This was after the Farm Conference. And every Tuesday for those weeks, I came to Chicago and delivered a lecture on the different aspects of deliberative dialogue. So all of those lectures are available on YouTube. And I highly recommend that all of you go and look at those lectures and learn the rules, the definitions, the roles, and the responsibilities of deliberative dialogue. So if we do that by July, you see, then we'll be ready, to hold a national deliberative dialogue session without it being chaotic and confused, and we actually get something done. Now, in addition to the videos, you can also buy the book. It's called A Short Manual on Deliberative Dialogue, and it's available on Amazon under my name. And then along with that book on dialogue, the second book is called The Commissioner's Workbook. The Commissioner's Workbook was composed by the 36 commissioners who worked in a deliberative fashion on the problems of the nation. And you'll find in that commissioner's workbook, as it's called, all of the burning questions that confront us as a nation and confront us as a people. And the purpose of the workbook, as the name suggests, is for you to work out solutions to all of those problems yourself, because it's your nation. And so that was the work of the commission over 7 years, working out solutions to all of those questions. And so we would ask you to follow the same pathway, and you come up with your own solutions, you see, and then we can put them together with solutions that were arrived at in the past and bring all that up to date. And that's our agenda moving forward into the future. So that's an outline of an agenda. And that's for people who are serious about getting something done. Now, everybody's not serious about getting something done. I realize that. That's very clear. Everybody is not serious. Everybody does not want to get something done. There are some people, believe it or not, who are completely satisfied with the way things are, and they do not want any disturbance whatsoever in the status quo. But I don't think that's the majority of people. We began a national dialogue in an informal sense, you could say, starting this Savior's Day. And although there were a lot of criticism about a lot of things, there was no one that I can think of offhand who actually voiced objection to the creation of the 9 ministries. I mean, maybe there's somebody out there that's you know that is opposed to the 9 ministries, but I haven't heard that voice. There are people opposed to me. There are people who are opposed to other people that they don't like, on a personal level. I don't like you. I don't like you. Well, that's us personal, petty stuff. But no one was really in objection to the most important thing, which are the 9 ministries itself. And the other thing I've found out, even though people have personal issues with this one or that one, these petty, trivial dislikes and dislikes, nobody actually criticized prayer and fasting as a means to stabilize us as individual people and to come together as a community of praying and fasting people. Because without the prayer and the fasting as the foundation, you can't do this ministry work. And then as I think back on it, maybe in 2007, maybe that was actually the hidden underlying reason why we could not act on these programs at that time like we should have. Maybe it was because there was not enough of a foundation in prayer and fasting. And now maybe there's a community of people who have become serious enough about prayer and fasting that now the foundation has been laid that they can actually go ahead and do this work. So we'll see. We'll see in the very near future. So that is the last slide, right? I think so.
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, so let's turn the program over to you. Let's turn the program over to you. Maybe you have a comment or question on something you heard or something you thought about, something somebody said, and so we'll take the next, 10, 20 minutes, whatever it is, to hear from you.
Assalamu alaikum. Brother Dawood, you have your hand up, sir. You can *6 to unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum. Prayer fast family. Assalamu alaikum, doc.
Wa alaikum salam.
I was just wondering, I remember Sister Ryan is in the news, all over the news, all up and down my news feed. I know you talk a lot about COVID and, what you could do and what's being done covertly and overtly. And what did Iran do, the Islamic Republic do in order to curb their COVID problem?
What did Iran do to curb their COVID problem? I don't really know for sure.
Yes, sir.
Now, when I was in Iran, with the World Friendship Tour, I did have a meeting with the Minister of Health in Iran. And I was surprised to learn from him that they had a very vibrant vaccine production program of their own.
Oh, wow.
So now I don't have any current information, but I imagine that they responded with their own indigenous vaccine. And the other possibility is, of course, they have a very close relationship with their neighbor, Russia. And Russia had a very effective vaccine that was different than the Western vaccine. And of course, they were in good relationship with the Chinese, and the Chinese had a vaccine. You see, so specifically, I don't know, but I would imagine that they either developed their own, or from the Russians or the Chinese, they got a vaccine.
Yes, sir. That's all I got.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, it's hard to get information. People are not necessarily aware of the degree of censorship that all of us are under. You can hardly get the truth out of Cuba or what's going on in Iran. You can't find the truth out about what's going on in Russia. Before this COVID thing hit, I was on my way to both Russia and China, because Russia has some of the most advanced medical devices, like some of these like this Star Trek stuff. Like these scans, these things they just zap you and heal you just like that. They have stuff like that. But you can't hardly find out any information about it unless you go there. And the same thing in China. They're doing so many fantastic things, but you just can't find out about it here. The censorship is so thick. They just block everything, so you don't find out. So I was on my way, but then COVID hit, and I wasn't able to go. So is there anyone else with their hand up, or?
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Yuen. Salam.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, we can.
Great. Yes. Dr. Alim, I would like to ask you what you were saying about the Chat GPT. My 14-year-old is telling me that if I try to disable it, that there's some kind of VPN, and that can create some kind of virus in my device. Is there any truth to that? Because I'm also not happy with this AI stuff, and I don't find the information to be very reliable. Do you think that that's just like a scare tactic, some kind of propaganda to get us to depend on this AI as opposed to trying to research things on our own?
Well, sure. I mean, I think everything that I highlighted tonight, I think just about every headline highlighted an attack on the brain. And so artificial intelligence is just that. It's probably the most massive attempt to destroy human thinking, human mentality. Because if all you have to do is let artificial intelligence do your thinking for you, do your calculations for you. See, when I went to college, they wouldn't allow you to have a calculator. We had to do all of our calculations with a slide rule, even though they were calculators. You couldn't use them because the professor said it makes you lazy. You won't learn how to think, because that calculator do everything for you. You won't actually know what the operation really is. But with a slide rule, you have to do everything yourself, meticulously. And it teaches you how to think and the logic and the sequence of thoughts that arrive at a logical conclusion. So there's a hadith, I probably can't quote it exactly, but it says that your handmaiden will become your mistress. Prophet Muhammad said one of the signs of the last days would be that your handmaiden becomes your mistress. In other words, your servant becomes your master. So artificial intelligence and computer technology, see, all of these things are supposed to be servants, helpers, aids to human beings. But at a certain point, there's a flip of the script where now the computer becomes the master and the human being becomes the slave. You see, so that's the great danger in it. is that people could slip into a state of apathy, where they become dominated by an intelligence that is greater than their own. Now, don't get me wrong, digital intelligence is not greater than the analog intelligence of human beings, because it's digital. By the very fact that it's digital means there's gaps in it. There has to be gaps in it, otherwise it wouldn't be digital. So it means that there's missing data that cannot compete with the continuous data stream of um, um, analog consciousness. So there's a great danger there. And of course, the even greater danger is that what do people think is the end result of artificial intelligence in the form of robots performing all of the work that used to be done by people? You see, at first it may seem like it's a great convenience to people, but actually in the end it shows, or would seem to show, that people are just useless eaters. And probably the most logical thing that a computer would come up with is the best thing to do with all these useless eaters is get rid of them. You see, especially when it comes down to making decisions, like who should get the electricity. So if a human being is making the decision in a certain area about who gets the electricity, the human being might rule in favor of the humans. I think human families and households, I think they should get the electricity to run their households. But suppose artificial intelligence is in charge and makes the decisions about who gets the energy, who gets the electricity. You see, they might make a different decision. They might say, we're more important than humans. We're more important, so we should get all the energy. And they get none. Because what are they doing anyhow? Just playing video games, doing silly things. They need electricity to keep their food from spoiling in a refrigerator. Well, we're computers, we're robots, we don't need food. So that's a waste of electricity. Things would be better if everybody was a robot like us. Then they don't need food. They don't need sleep. They don't need to take a bath. You see, so this thing could rapidly get out of hand. And some people would say it's already out of hand. So I think you're very wise to be concerned. And I think it's a very dangerous thing to put artificial intelligence around our children, because it's bad enough the way the school systems work, where they make the teachers seem like the teacher's smarter than the parents. And so the child comes home from school thinking that the teacher's smarter than the parents and starts disrespecting the parents in favor of the teacher. So now that could even be worse with artificial intelligence, where children say, I don't have to listen to what you said, mommy, because the artificial intelligence told me something else. Some of the comments that I got, over the last week or so, I could tell they weren't written by human beings. Somebody got an AI assistant, and we're gonna pepper Dr. Muhammad with some questions. It's artificial intelligence. You see, and so you have to be able to detect that, because it's taking over the minds and the thinking of people, and that's to their detriment, because in the end, they're going to outlive their usefulness, and people are going to be considered to be more trouble than they're worth. And so robots may actually complete, artificial intelligence may actually complete the depopulation agenda. So thank you for that observation.
Dr. Alim, we
Yeah.
have one question from YouTube and we have one question from Facebook. And Sister Yulin has her hand up again for another question.
I just wanted to follow up on what was said to Dr. Lee, is that I'm proud to say that I completed a law enforcement program, but we would get told off by our professor on a daily basis of my classmates, future officers. They would actually just type the questions, what the essay question was, and they would type, the keywords and everything, and have the software type up the assignment.
Yeah.
My gosh, how can you be entering law enforcement and not have anything less than integrity? So some people thought that, oh, it's just like Google, you're just trying to get information, but they would just copy and paste it, which would take away the serious minded students like myself who were actually going and submitting the 30-page essay. I can't believe how it can actually do that. And software has actually had to be developed by professors alike, right? Who will have to scan the assignments to see if the student really even wrote it. So all of these people that are taking these shortcuts, I think that we're definitely on a downward spiral.
Well, not only that, I mean, they're just like, I mean, what do you think is going on in all of the colleges? People who are in teaching programs, in training to be teachers, but they're doing just what, you just described. So they get a diploma from college that they're a teacher. Now they're in front of a classroom with real students in front of them, and they don't know anything. And I'm sure they're doing the same thing in medical schools, in dental schools, nursing schools, all over the place. People are literally cheating. They're allowing artificial intelligence to do their work for them. And yeah, they get through. They get through because nobody's clear on whether that's legal or ethical, or is that allowable? Should we let that go? I mean, how do you regulate that? But in the end, you just have a bunch of ignorant people. See, those are people who, at the end of that training program that you're in, those people are just as ignorant at the end of the program as they were at the beginning. They didn't learn anything. And so if they're out there in some capacity as a law enforcement officer, they will not know how to handle a real life situation. And they will be miserable failures. And probably, I don't know if you're talking about a police program or not, or armed guards or not, but these are the people that commit murder. Because in their incompetence, they don't know what to do. So they just pull out the gun and shoot. And teachers, same way. That's why you have students coming out of high school now that are still illiterate because the teacher couldn't read. The teacher was guilty of cheating her way or his way through college. So this is widespread. And if you go back, I believe in the year 1971 or 72, you'll find an edition of the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. And the article written by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was The Destruction of America's Education. The destruction of America's education. And in that article, he actually outlined exactly what is taking place in America's educational system. So now, since that time in the 70s, 71, 72, till now you have 2 or 3 generations of stupidity. That's why the national officials in government, in universities, in industry, in business, wherever you find people nowadays, you're looking at stupid people for the most part because of the destruction of America's education. That's why she's losing out to China. Losing out. You can't even beat Iran. Can't beat Yemen in a war. Why? They're too dumb. They're not smart enough. And why are they not smart enough? Why are they lagging behind in all of the areas of technology? America used to be number one in everything. Now she's lagging behind in mathematics, in science, in technology, in all of these advanced fields, being beat by little countries. Why? Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said Allah's judgment is against America's education. So that means America can't learn anything. She can't learn from her mistakes. Haven't you noticed? Can't learn anything. Repeats the same dumb mistakes over and over and over and over again. Seems like she can't help herself. Well, that's the destruction of America's education. And so that's why we have to have our own educational system built up, because this one is being destroyed. And we can't get any benefit from it because they're not getting any benefit from it anymore. And I think artificial intelligence is the death knell to it, because it actually puts an end to people's ability to think. So let's take one or two more. My battery's getting ready to die in a second here.
Okay, yes, sir. We have one from Facebook. What should we do to the workup to July 4th?
Oh, study the dialogue manual so you're actually familiar with the rules, regulations, roles, and responsibilities. And then look at the workbook. That has all of the questions. That has all of the questions that need answers. And that'll get your brain cells working as you start trying to apply your thinking to how to solve this problem. What about this problem? What about this? What about that? You know? So get those two books. They're on Amazon, and study those. And then we probably should ask people two things. One, send in a list of problems that you think need to be addressed or questions that need to be answered. You know, I mean, on big questions now, not little petty things. I'm talking about big issues of national significance. And then the second thing is out there where you are right now, see, you're already doing something that probably relates to one or the other of the 9 ministries or the task force groups. So you actually ought to think, where do you think you would fit in? Would you fit in the Ministry of Agriculture, Arts and Culture, Education, Science and Technology? Where would you fit in? You see, and that's where you should concentrate your attention. And then maybe by July, you see, we'll have some kind of a structure, that you can relate to with other people with similar interests. All the science and techie people, they can all get together. All the health people, they can find each other and get together, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of in a nice organic way, we can begin to bring this thing together. And then gradually, as we go along, we make it more and more formalized, in its structure. So let me do something real quick here before my battery dies on me. And okay. All right.
Okay, yes, sir. We have one more question.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. I've been drinking coconut milk. I haven't tried raw milk yet. How good or bad is coconut milk? Is that good for fasting?
Well, where's the caller calling from? Do you live where coconuts grow? I mean, if you live in Jamaica or the Caribbean or someplace where coconuts grow and you can get fresh coconut and coconut water, coconut milk, the jelly in the coconut, all that's good. But if you live in New York City and you're buying coconut milk or coconut water from a grocery store in a can or in a container, that's no good. And actually, even though they call a lot of things milk, nothing is milk except milk. So I don't confuse people by calling other things milk besides milk. So there's no such thing as rice milk. There's no such thing as soy milk. There's no such thing as this type of milk or any kind of milk, almond milk. No, the only milk that is milk. And milk comes from mammals. And the most common milk, raw milk, that's available everywhere in America is raw milk, raw cow's milk. If you want to find raw cow's milk, there's a website. It's called realmilk.com. Realmilk.com. And it has a list state by state of all of the sources of raw milk. It's not illegal to have raw milk. Every state regulates it differently. In some places like Arizona and California, you can go right in the supermarket and buy raw milk. In other states, they have different rules, but it's always available. And there is no substitute for real milk. They use the good name of milk to confuse you and deceive you. So again, the question was about coconut water, coconut milk. If you live in an area where coconuts grow and you can get fresh coconut, then that's fine. but I wouldn't trust it when it comes in a package.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Alim. That is the last question for the evening.
All right. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. Thank you, Sister Cheryl, for your assistance. And inshallah, you'll join us tomorrow evening with the 19th element. We call that the second half of the survival show. But we deal with geopolitical issues, war and peace issues, all kinds of things like that. And we're really going to dive deep into what's taking place between Iran, Israel, and the United States, and the change that's taking place in the world. Now, remember my prediction not so long ago, near the turn of the year, I said Israel would cease to exist. And you're seeing that. And maybe by next week, that will become a reality, or maybe by next month. But I think before the year is out, the nation that we have known as Israel will no longer exist. And then my second part of that prophecy was, and America is not far behind. So check us out tomorrow night with the 19th element. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Assalamu alaikum.
Well, alaikum salam. Thank you, Dr. Alim. And we will close out in prayer. Attention prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the day of requital. Thee do we serve, and thee do we beseech for help. Guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not those upon whom wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray. Ameen.
Ameen. Ameen.
Thank you, Dr. Alim.
Thank you, Sister Cheryl. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Have a good evening.
I'm Dr. Alim. Dr. Alim.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.